Very warm good morning, students. Students, let's continue with our chapter crop production and management. So till now we already studied about the types of crop, then we have studied about the basic practices of crop production, in which we have studied about the agriculture practices. Students, as I already explained to you what are the steps of agriculture practices, that is preparation of soil, sowing, adding manure and fertilizer, irrigation, protecting from weeds, harvesting, storage. These are the few activities under agriculture practices. As I already explained you preparation of soil. So now let's continue with the second step, that is the sowing. Sowing, it is one of the important part of the crop production. What is the sowing? It is scattering of seeds on the field, right, which is prepared for the cultivation. So we termed as sowing. As I said, farmer prefer to use seeds which give a high yield. Now students, how farmers select a healthy seeds? So what they do, they just put the seeds in a water. So the seeds which are damaged or defective, that seeds float on water. So they reject those seeds, and the seeds which remain submerged in water are selected for sowing. So this is a good method for separating good healthy seeds from the damaged one. Before sowing, one of the important tasks, what is that important task? To know about the tool which is used for the sowing seeds. Now friends, let me study about these tools. What are these tools? First tool is traditional tool. Student, in traditional tool, like it is a funnel like shaped structure. You can see here also. Here it is a funnel like structure, right? So in this funnel like structure, the seeds are filled, then it is passed down through, like at the end there are 2 or 3 pipes which having the sharp ends, and these ends are put into the soil and which place the seeds there. So this is one of the traditional tool which is used for the sowing seeds. Next tool is seed drill. Student, these days farmer use seed drills for sowing these seeds, and it is used with the help of a tractor. This tool sows the seeds uniformly at proper distances and depth. That's why it is one of the better method for sowing the seeds. And students, it also ensures that the seeds get covered by the soil after sowing, because this prevents damage caused by the birds, and it also saves time and labor. Student, the seed should be sown at a right depth in the soil. If the seed sown at a greater depth, so what will happen? They will not get sufficient air for respiration, and on germination, the shoot will not come out of the soil. On the other hand, if the seeds are sown on the surface, so then what will happen? They will be eaten by the birds. And also, there should be proper spacing between the seeds. We should avoid overcrowding of plants, so that there is less competition for water, nutrients, sunlight. Next topic is adding manure and fertilizers. Students, you have seen the farmers are adding fertilizers and manure in the fields. So why they are adding manure and fertilizer in the fields? So that the soil get more nutrients, right, for the growth of the plants. So students, the substances which are added to the soil in the form of nutrients for the growth of a healthy plants are called manure and fertilizer. Soil supplies mineral nutrients to the crop, and these nutrients are very essential or very important for the growth of the plants. Students, we have seen that in certain areas the farmers grow crop after crop. So in that case, like what happened, like the field is never left uncultivated, so they continuously growing the crops in that field, so which makes the soil poor in certain nutrients. So farmer adding manure to the field so that the soil replenish again with the nutrients. So this process is called manuring. If there is an improper or insufficient manuring, so which result in weak plants, the plants will not grow properly. So student, what is manure? Manure is an organic substances which is obtained from the decomposition of plants or animal waste, which you already studied in 6th standard or in 7th standard. As I already explained you about manures, now there is another term, fertilizer. What is fertilizer? Fertilizer is another way of enriching the soil with nutrients. So students, fertilizers are the chemicals which is manufactured in the factories, and these chemicals are highly rich in nutrients like potassium, nitrogen and phosphorus. So the farmers use these fertilizers to get better yield of the crops. What will happen if the farmer use these fertilizer in excess? So in that case, the soil can lose its fertility and it will cause the water pollution. So in order to maintain the fertility of the soil, what farmers do, they substitute fertilizer by organic manure, or they leave the field uncultivated in between two crops. So students, that's why the farmer generally use manure, so that because manure improves the texture as well as the water retention capacity of the soil, and it replenishes the soil with all the nutrients. There is another method of replenishing the soil with the nutrient, and the name of the method is crop rotation. In crop rotation, different crops grown in alternately. In earlier, the farmers of northern India, they grow legumes as a fodder in one season and wheat in another season. So when this method helped in replenishment of the soil with nitrogen. Next topic is difference between fertilizer and manure. As you already studied about what are fertilizers and what is manure. So now we will study about the difference between fertilizer and manure. So in fertilizer, it is an inorganic substance which is man-made. Manure, it is an organic substance and it is natural substance. Fertilizers is prepared in factories, whereas manure can be prepared in the fields. Fertilizer do not provide any humus to the soil, whereas manure provide a lot of humus to the soil, which is good for the growth of the plant. Then fertilizers are very rich in plants nutrients like nitrogen, phosphorus and potassium, whereas manure is relatively less rich in plant nutrients as compared to the fertilizer. Now our next topic is irrigation. It is the third step of agriculture practices. Student, as you already know about, water is very essential resource for all living beings, because it is without water we cannot survive. So all living beings need water to live, and it is important for the proper growth and development of the plants. And students, water is absorbed by the plant roots, and it also absorbed along with the water, minerals and fertilizer is also absorbed, and it is transported to each part of the plant. And water is essential because germination of seeds takes place with the help of water. If there is no water, so dry condition will be there, so in that condition germination of seeds will not take place. Then students, water also protect the crop from both frost and the hot air currents, and it also maintain the moisture of the soil for the growth of the healthy crop in the field. So student, that's why you have seen that the farmers are water the field regularly. Sometimes farmers are reliable on the rain, which is not a good thing, because amount of rain varies and does not always supply the right amount of the water at the right time. So therefore there should be a proper irrigation system will ensure timely and so that it provide adequate water to the crops, and it help to lead more yield. Traditional method of irrigation. Students, in traditional method of irrigation, the water which is available in well, lakes, canal, the water is lifted by the different methods in different regions for taking it to the fields. So in this method, cattle or human labor is used, and at that time these methods are cheap, but it is less efficient. So what are these methods? These methods are mode, which is a pulley system, chain pump like you can see here, then Dhekli and Rahat. So and at that time the pump are the commonly used for lifting water. Now diesel, biogas, electricity and solar energy is used to run these pumps. Our next topic is modern methods of irrigation. So in modern method of irrigation is very helpful. Why it is very helpful? because in this method the water is used economically. So now we will study about the what are the modern methods. One is a sprinkler system and another one is a drip system. So let me start with the sprinkler system. Students, in sprinkler system is very useful method on uneven land where sufficient water is not available. So how a sprinkler system work? Here there is a perpendicular pipe which having the rotating nozzles at the top. Then these are joined to the main pipeline at regular interval. So when water is allowed to flow through the main pipe, so under the pressure, with the help of a pump, it escape from the rotating nozzles. So it gets sprinkled on the crop as if it is raining. So it is very useful for the sandy soil. Now you can see here, this is the sprinkler system. Another modern method of irrigation is drip system, about which you already studied in your previous class. So in this system, water is provided to plants drop by drop at the root. So it is called drip system, and it is the best technique for watering fruit plants, gardens and trees. In this system, water is not wasted at all. So that is, it is a boon in regions where availability of water is poor. Our next topic is protection from weeds. What is weeds? So students, you have seen the undesirable plants grow along with the crops naturally. So these undesirable plants are called weeds. Now you have seen that the farmers are removing these undesirable plants, which we call weeds, from the fields. We call this process weeding. So what is weeding? Weeding, it is the removal of weeds from the field, is called weeding. Weeding is necessary, or you can say weeds are required to be removed from the fields. Why? Because they compete with crop plants for their basic needs like water, sunlight, nutrients and space. Different types of weeds grow naturally with different crops during the different season of the year. So weeds often grow faster than the main crop. And as I already explained you, the process of removing weeds from the field is called weeding. Now student, our next topic is weed control. So the process of removing weeds from the field, it is done by the two ways, that is manually or by use of weedicide. Student, the best time for the removal of weeds is before they produce flowers and seeds. Now we will talk about the manually, how we manually we remove the weeds by pulling out the weeds with the help of a khurpa, right? So or cutting them to close to the ground. Then a seed drill is also used to uproot the weeds. About the seed drill, I already explained you in previous class. Another method is weedicide. So what is weedicide? There are the certain chemicals which we call weedicides. These weedicides are sprayed in the fields with the help of a sprayer, right? So these weedicide first diluted with water and then sprayed in the field with the help of the sprayer. Then student, these chemicals check the growth of many weeds but do not affect the main crop. And weedicides are poisonous. During spraying of these chemicals, the farmer should take care of themselves and they have to cover their mouth and nose. What are the example of weedicide? One of the example is 2,4-D. This is the name of the weedicide. Now our next step is harvesting. Student, once the crop mature, it is harvested. So the process of cutting and gathering a crop is known as harvesting. Harvesting is done either manually by means of sickles or by some other mechanical means by using harvester. So student, the harvested crop may contain all kind of incredible matter. So the whole process of separation of grains from the harvested crop, it is known as threshing. And student, threshing can be done manually or by using the machine which we call thresher or combine. So the process of separating the grains from the chaff with the help of wind is called winnowing. About winnowing and threshing you already studied in lower class. Now student, you can see here this is a thresher or combine. So by using this thresher or combine, threshing can be done by the farmers. Now student, if I talk about the farmers which have a very small land, so how that farmers separate the grains and chaff. So student, that farmers use a different method which we call it winnowing. Winnowing is the method by separating the grains from the chaff with the help of wind, which we call it winnowing, and this method is used by the farmers with a small holdings of land. Our next topic is storage. Storage is last step of agriculture practices. Students, grains which is obtained by threshing are dried in the open to prevent the growth of microorganism on them. So the dried grain are stored in the suitable containers which we call bins or in a jute bags. The storage of grains on a large scale, it is done in the granaries and silos. Now you can see here it is the silos and these are the granaries. So student, storage is necessary to protect the grains from the pests, insects and rat, and it is important to store grains dry. Why it is important to store grains dry? Because if the grains contain moisture and humidity, so this will lead, that moisture and humidity will lead to grow the fungus or molds on the grain and they can damage the grains. That's why it is important to grow the grains dry. Since you have seen at your home also your parents are using dried neem leaves. Why they are using dried neem leaves? For storing food grains. And then for storing large quantity of grains in a big godowns, specific chemical treatments are required to protect these food grains from pests and microorganisms. Next topic is food from animals. Like plants, animals also provide us with different kinds of food. Many people who are living in the coastal areas, they consume fish as a major part of their diet. In previous classes, you already learnt about the food that we obtain from plants. And you also already learnt about the food which we obtain from the animals. So students, like you have seen, like we have studied in this chapter, the process of crop production, which involves a number of steps like selection of seeds, sowing, etc. So in the same way, animal reared at home or in farms and have to be provided with proper food, shelter and care. So when this is done on a large scale, we call it animal husbandry. So what is the animal husbandry? When animals are reared at a large scale to obtain food from them, it is called animal husbandry. Now you can see here the few list of animal husbandry which is popular in India, like beekeeping, or beekeeping also known as apiculture, cattle farming, dairy farming, fish farming or aquaculture, poultry farming, sheep farming and many more animal husbandry is also there. Students, I hope you understood the steps of agriculture practices and about the animal husbandry. So thank you students and have a wonderful day.